Hi, this is Jesper, and I make videos on YouTube for those who like to challenge mindset and make a difference in the workplace. Today I will expand on an important concept of agile software development, what's called the minimum viable product, also called the MVP. I hypothesize that the concept of agile and MVP are poorly understood, which reduce the benefits. Let's start with a quick recap of Agile and what it is before we jump into the MVP. It originated in the 1980s as a reaction to the long time it took to develop software and applications. Back then, the traditional approach was to divide or break down a project into stages, starting with analysis, which described what the software needed to do, the design, which described how the system or application would work, followed by the development of the software. It was called the waterfall approach, not that it had anything to do with water, but because of its top-down, linear flow and approach. The problem with the waterfall approach was that it delivered the software product at the end. There were limited opportunities for the product users to view the software during the development, resulting in a product they didn't expect or didn't want. Reasons included poor designs and a lack of understanding of what the product users wanted, which resulted in a poorly designed product due to the communication difficulties between business users and software developers. And in recent time, another factor emerged to complicate the matter further: the increasing digitization and the digital disruption. Because of the rate of increasing change, requirements changed during development, and the software became obsolete before it was even completed. Please take a moment to consider this. The software became obsolete during the development. Ouch! A new way of developing software was needed, and a group of software developers devised a new approach of defining and developing software. They viewed the software development process not as a long race, but a series of shorter sprints. Sprints provided the business users with early views of the product and allowed them to make course corrections. Poorly analyzed requirements could be rectified, and requirements could be changed mid-flight to cater for internal and external changes. The Agile approach created a revolution in software development, and today most organizations have adopted some kind of Agile approach. There are many aspects to Agile, and in this video I'm going to focus on only one, the minimum viable product or the MVP. But there are other aspects: new funding models, new way of collaboration, there are new ceremonies, there are a lot of things. If this is something you would like to see, please let me know in the comment section. In theory, the MVP is easy to understand. It is a minimum viable requirement to make a product usable to its users. A simple example is a car. For a car to be useful, it needs to have a body. It needs to have wheels. It needs to have an engine, and it needs to have means of steering. It doesn't require ABS brakes or cruise control or a media player. But does it require passenger seats? That depends on how it will be used. If it's going to be used as a family car, it would not be useful without passenger seats. If it is to become a racing car, passenger seats probably don't matter. The point is that an MVP is relative to its use. And this relativity causes problems in specifying it correctly for a particular situation. Let's unpack this by starting with some basics. In an Agile process, requirements are captured and prioritized in a business backlog through user stories. User stories are selected and added to a sprint cycle. Software developers take the user stories as input and develop software code. At the end of the sprint cycle, user stories are selected again using the same process, and the software developers develop more code. There are several steps in between, including refinements and retros, but they are beyond the scope of this video. A showcase is scheduled at the end of a sprint cycle to demonstrate the functionality to the user. The showcase should always take place as early as possible. Continuing our car example, the first showcase could be to demonstrate the body of the car. The next showcase could demonstrate the wheels added to the body. The final showcase might add the passenger seats, and if accepted, the car is released. Although important features are missing, the car can be used because it's better than having no car at all. The complication is if we add features to our car, our MVP, before the MVP is completed. Perhaps we want air conditioning, a vanity mirror, or a media player for the kids. The overall scope of the MVP increases as we add features, and if we add too many features, the project transforms from Agile into a traditional waterfall approach. In business, this translates into exceptions. Users go beyond what is necessary and begin to add features that are nice to have. Some of these features are important and should be added after the MVP is completed. But other features may serve specific interest or specific individuals and perhaps shouldn't be added at all. The question to ask continuously is, if we remove a feature, does it make or render the software unusable? If it does, it must be included. If it doesn't, it should be part of a future feature release. Here is something to consider. Should a feature be included, even if it is essential, if the cost of building the feature exceeds the value it creates? Or put differently, should something be automated if it is cheaper if it remains manual? Software is ultimately about automation. And just because something can be automated doesn't mean it should. Adopting Agile and the concept of the MVP is not about doing something different. It is a different way of thinking and requires a fundamental change in mindset. Because users are used to getting things at the end of the project, and the project traditionally has taken a long time, it is natural for them to ask for as many features upfront. To change this mindset and take business users on a journey, we need to adopt new principles and practices. Showcase functionality as often and early as possible. Regularly demonstrate progress to give business users visibility and confidence in the Agile process. If requested features go beyond the scope of the MVP, explain they will be added later using the same process with the same velocity. Always exclude exceptions from the MVP. I like to think of exceptions as a death by 1,000 cuts. The exception is if they are essential, such as catering for legal requirements. Insist on data to support opinions. Opinions are cheap and plentiful. Humans are good at thinking of what could go wrong. Instead, implement and operate the MVP and look at the data. If data supports an opinion, add it to the business backlog and prioritize it as a future feature release. Analyze the cost and benefits of automation. Resources are limited, and focus on automation that creates the greatest value and benefits. Just because someone is loud about what they want doesn't mean it should be prioritized or automated. Sometimes processes or process steps should remain manual. Follow these steps and increase your chances of a successful Agile project. And if you have enjoyed this video, I would appreciate it if you hit the like and the subscribe button. I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Take care until then.